Awesome. So I'm guessing people are going to start trickling in. So I guess we could start chatting while they filter in. Um,
Yes.
for those of you who don't know, I met Delores strangely. I think it was Clubhouse. We were probably in a room together, and I just liked what she had to say, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I need to know this girl. I need to know."
Oh,
And I think one of the most recent Clubhouse rooms she was in, um, it was her and her husband Charles. Is it Charles, right?
yes.
And I was,
Yep.
oh my God, they're so cute. I love it.
Thank you.
I was so reluctant, and I've been wanting to do it for a while, and I was so scared. And I just mustered up the courage last week, and I was,
Wait, you were reluctant on contacting me?
yes.
Girl.
I was like, oh my gosh, I want to do it, but I'm scared. What if she says no? And I was like, you know what? I'm going to do it. And I reached out to Delores, and she was like, yeah, of course.
Yes, and let me tell you, Melissa, I think you said something like, "Oh, this is a long shot, or I'm just going to shoot my shot."
Yes.
I was like, girl, what shot are you shooting? Like, I just feel like collaboration, especially amongst women, especially amongst Black women, like it's so important. And we have to do more of it, because now your audience is hearing my voice, my audience is hearing your voice. There may be someone who hears your story and it's like, yes, I'm so glad Dolores connected us, because now, like you never know whose life you're saving through collaborating and storytelling. So I'm always going to be down if I can make the time, for sure. And I love your content. I love your content.
Thank you. People keep telling me that, and I think it's just so regular schmegular. But you know what? If people like it, that means I'm doing something right, and I want to keep doing it, because if I help at least one person, that means I'm doing something great.
And
So
that's what it's all about.
yeah,
That's what it's all about.
so excited right now. You guys don't even understand. I
Oh,
love this girl. She's just so
oh.
fashionable. I love the example that she's setting in her marriage. It's just,
Thank
oh,
you.
I got
Thank you.
goosebumps.
I'm so humbled and I so appreciate it. Because a lot of times, like the same way you're like, I just post like what comes to my mind. I think that's just such a gift for us to operate in our gift
Yeah.
and not really realize how someone is admiring that. Because to us, it's just we're being basic, just doing our basic thing that we love. And
Yeah.
so hearing that really does bless my heart, because I'm always like, God, like, help me see myself the way you see me, because right now I feel like it's not working. So I really appreciate you giving me those flowers, and I'm definitely giving it right back, because I'm always like, how is she able to like say all these like amazing things back to back and be so consistent?
Girl,
So I'm definitely a fan of yours too.
I'm telling you, sometimes I just go to bed and it just comes to me while I'm sleeping, and I get up in the middle of the night and I grab my iPhone and jot it down and or tweet it. But I'm telling you, God has to be there somewhere. God's
Mm-hmm. Yes, yes, yes.
so before we really get started, I wanted you to take this time to really introduce yourself to, I guess, my audience, and tell us a little bit about what you do, and of course about Charles. I just like Charles. He's amazing.
He is. He is special. So hi everyone. My name is Dr. Delores Sarfo-Darko, farmer. By my 9 to 5, I work in higher education. So my background's in social work. I have an MSW, and then I have my Doctor of Education. I concentrated in higher education administration because I just love helping students graduate, especially low-income first-gen students. They need the support. They're so equipped. And so that's the type of work that I love to do during the day. And then what I think people say my 5 to 9, but I feel like it's like my all day. My all day and night, when I'm not sleeping, is Flourish with Delores, which really started as a podcast because there was a point where I started a new job and I was just not really feeling fulfilled in my work. And when I would talk to my other friends or sorority sisters who are accomplished and successful, and they would also feel like, yeah, I'm not really that happy either. And I'm like, man, we need to start telling these stories, because on social media, everybody looks so perfect. Everybody looks so happy, like they graduated, they're killing it. And so I started, it was called We Are Still Becoming at the time, but that was my podcast. And that was a way for me to share the success stories, but really how people navigate their challenges, and making that more normalized, that adulting is a struggle. So that evolved into my YouTube channel and just my brand, where I share about my marriage, my lifestyle, my faith. I love Jesus. You're going to hear about Jesus and everything that I talk about. And then, just whatever I can to encourage and empower people, especially women and women of color. That's what I'm all about. And then about Charles. So I met Charles in college. He remembers meeting me when I was in high school, actually, when my senior year, when I went to interview for a scholarship. And I don't remember him though. And I remember meeting him my freshman year. He was a sophomore. We were in the same scholarship organization. And I friend zoned him. Like, he was just like the good guy, the friend. But the funny thing is, I would call him my fiance. And it's like, I just want to say that to anybody listening, like, your words, like the words that come out of your tongue is so powerful. And I'm blanking on the Bible verse, but, just really be mindful of what you say. And, we're going to be talking about being a wife today. And, I have friends who are single, and many times they start to lose hope, which is understandable to feel, disappointed and not having that relationship work out. But then they'll start to say things like, I'm going to be single forever, or I'm not going to have children. It's like, no, don't say that. Like, you will have children if you want it. I don't want to pressure anybody to have babies. Yes. Eve just said manifestation. So your words are so powerful. So the funny thing is, I was calling Charles my fiance, but I wasn't doing that intentional. But it was just because he was the good guy. But little me, not, trying to be with a good guy, dating guys that weren't so great. That's where my focus was. And I remember sitting in the caf with my best friend, Jessica, complaining about some dude that had just broke my heart. And I'm just like, why does it ever work out with guys with me? And then Charles comes into the Cove and I'm like, hey, fiance, bye, fiance. And then Jessica, my best friend, was like, why do you always call him fiance but not give him a chance? Like, talk to him, like, like, you're tired of these other guys, try something different. And for a while I was like, no, Charles, like, he's a nerd and all this stuff. But honestly, that was the best decision ever. And that night when I thought about it, I shot him his text. So I shooted my shot. And yeah, so I mean, it's been a long journey since, but that's pretty much how we got started from that day. So just really grateful for him, and he's my best friend first and foremost, which I think that's really what makes us work. Yeah. Yes. But what about you? I want to introduce you to my audience too.
Well, my story is not as glamorous as yours.
Oh.
My high school sweetheart or my college sweetheart. I actually met him at work. So
I didn't know that.
At the time, I was working at this huge advertising agency in New York, working in human resources. And I was having a really rough day working in corporate. Sometimes the days are very long. And usually what I do when I'm stressed, I get up from my desk and I go walk around the office and chat with people. And our office at the time had like 3 or 4 suites in the building, 3 or 4 floors, in the building. And I usually just go to different floors and talk to this director, talk to that director. And this day I just felt like I needed to go talk to the receptionist. And I'm the type of person, I treat everybody the same, whether you're the receptionist, the janitor, the CEO, the finance director, you're going to get the same energy from me 24/7. Yeah. And I usually stop to talk with the receptionist because working in HR at the time I was doing like interviews and stuff like that. So whenever a candidate or a client would come, the receptionist is the person who would take them to me. So I like to develop a relationship with the people who help me out. So I went to go chat with him and we're chit-chatting like, yeah, how was your weekend? Whatever. And the way how the suites are set up, once you get off the elevator, you have to kind of swipe your badge to get in and you'd hear the door beep. And I heard the beep and I turned, I looked over my shoulder. Never seen this dude before. Don't know who he is. And I said to the receptionist, oh, who's that? He's kind of cute. As a joke. He'll defend it. I'm surprised he's not on this live jumping in and saying, nah, that's not what happened. So, the receptionist was kind of like, oh, snap. Melissa, he's Jamaican just like you. Okay, cool. Let me talk to him. Because I get excited when I see my Jamaican folks. So
yes.
He comes in and the receptionist introduced us and we shake hands, whatever. And my husband comes, he's my husband now, yeah.
Right.
My husband then comes in and he's like, oh yeah, this is Melissa. Yeah, she works in human resources. And I could feel
Mm.
the grip just dropping out of his hands. And he was like, oh, okay, okay. So come to find out, he was leaving the company, and he was actually at that point stationed in one of our buildings across the street, which is the reason why we've never run into each other. Crazy story. He was on my dashboard to do a offboarding interview to get him out the company. And I didn't know him. It was just a name on my dashboard. So we introduce names and whatever, and we tell each other what we do, and he's explaining why he's leaving, and the receptionist was like, well, Melissa can help you, you know, she can let you know what's going on if they're like screwing with you, like she works in HR, she can help you. And he was kind of like, oh, I don't know, like and I was like, look, write your name down, give me your number, I'll let you know how it goes.
Yes.
And then the receptionist was like, yeah, you know, by the way, Melissa's Jamaican. And he's like, what? Oh my God, yeah.
That changes everything.
He was so excited. So I was like, yeah, what part of Jamaica you from? I'm so excited. I'm so excited. He's like, so you see, I was really born in Jamaica, but my parents is from there. I was like, you ain't Jamaican.
You're one of those.
I was so mean to him. And he was kind of like, oh, okay. So long story short, we go our separate ways. I went back to my desk, I did some research, and I found out that he wasn't being treated the best. And I was like, you know what, it's a good thing you're leaving, you are not being treated the best, it's okay, go, it's not a big deal, whatever. He was very advised, and I didn't hear from him again for maybe like another week or two. Granted, at this time I'm in the process of moving from New York to Florida. And I was just sick of New York, tired of the hustle and bustle. I needed a slower pace. And he reaches out to me out of the blue in the next 2 weeks. Mind you, I have like less than probably like a month before I moved to Florida. And he was like, yeah, how is everything going with your move to Florida? And I was like, yeah, I'm good. But I have these like center tables that are glass. I can't get rid of them. Nobody wants to buy them because it's glass. So I sent him a picture. And he's like, oh, how much are you selling it for? I told him the price. And he rebutted. And he's like, how about I pay you this and I take you to lunch?
There we go. What's your husband's name?
Javon.
Javon. He's smooth with it.
And I was like, not lunch. Let's do dinner.
Yeah.
More so because, again, my workday is rough. I can't give you my undivided attention in an hour. It's just not going to work. So we went to dinner and we ended up talking the whole night. Come to find out, his cousins and I grew up in Jamaica together. His family, my family. And it's crazy because God has a funny sense of humor. Whenever it would come on to summertime, his parents would send him and his brother to Jamaica, and they would go to the church that I went to in Jamaica. But I was never there because my parents would always send me up to New York to stay with family for the summer. So
God said, not yet. Gotta be separate for now.
Oh, yeah, God, what he was doing.
Timing is everything, though.
Known if we met then, it would have never worked. We weren't for each other.
Right.
You know? So we ended up sitting up and talking for like 8-9 hours. I remember getting home like 5 o'clock the next morning. We were sitting in Penn Station the entire night, like watching trains pass and just chatting. And funny enough, like I thought it was going to be it. I wasn't going to hear from him again. It was going to be done after I moved. He never stopped calling. He even flew down to Florida, and he asked me on my birthday that January, hey, would you be my girlfriend? And I was like, look, I'm at that place in my life where I don't need guys coming and saying they want this and playing with me. So you're going to be frank about what you want and what you need. And I'll decide if this is what I want.
Yeah.
And
I like that.
He was frank, straight up with me. And let me see if I can show you guys this. He sent me a bouquet of flowers and this note. It says, I can feel it. I hope you can feel it too. I'm crushing on you. I hope you like me. Do you like me too?
I am here for Javon. There we go.
Like, oh my God. He's so cute. Like, so are you asking me to be your girlfriend? And he's like, yo, how many more signs do I need to get?
Exactly, Melissa.
I didn't want to, make an assumption because I had gotten out of a bad relationship like a few years before. And I was like, I'm not going through that again. It's not going to happen. And this guy stood by me the entire time. So we officially started dating that January. And by that December, he asked me to marry him. And we couldn't wait to set a date or whatever. And we got engaged like December 28th, and we were married by February 15th.
Wow. I remember you told me that within 45 days,
Yes.
married.
He was like, look, I'm not playing any games. This is what I want. Let's go to the chapel or the courthouse. We literally went to the courthouse, got our paperwork, and got married on the front porch of a pastor's office.
Wow. I know the people listening are like, does Javon have a brother that's similar to his thought process?
He does. Yes. And he's probably single. Okay.
All right, you guys, DM Melissa. DM Melissa about Javon's brother.
My in-laws, they raise their kids with so much chivalry. Like, it's amazing. These guys are wonderful.
Well, tell them about how your in-laws got married. I think you said within 30 days of dating.
Yes, my in-laws only knew each other for a week or two. Like, I thought when I met them, I thought my husband told me they were together for like 6 months, but they said no, they only knew each other for 3 weeks.
Wow.
They've been married now for 32 years this year.
Amazing.
You know, it's like God just knows how to line things up, because my father-in-law had just gotten divorced. He was in a not so nice relationship, and he met my now mother-in-law at his brother's wedding, and she was just tagging along as a friend of his sister. And he saw her, he just laid one eye on her, and he was like, oh my gosh, I have to marry this girl. I need to know her. Everybody was just like, no, you're still married. And he's like, no, I'm not married anymore. I'm divorced. And they're like, what? And after only knowing her for 3 weeks, she said the only reason why she said yes was because he would not stop bothering her.
Aww.
This man who, just to get her attention, he, there was a lunch, she had a lunch break, and he wanted to go see her. He jumped into his car in just some shorts, no t-shirt, no shoes, just so he could drive to her job and, try to take her to lunch. And she's looking at him like, dude, where's your shirt? Like, where's your shoes? Like,
he was like, I need to see you now.
Yeah, like when you know. And I love everything about love, and just watching their true testament and reflection about what I want to see in my marriage. I just absolutely love it.
And I feel like sometimes, like you said, when you know, I think sometimes couples know sooner and want to get married sooner, but then all of the traditional, we're supposed to be together for a year or 2 or 3 before we get married, or we're supposed to have this lavish wedding. I think all of that stops people from doing it sooner, because they're saving for a lavish wedding or a lavish ring, and that's holding them back from just starting their lives together.
That's funny you say that, because I used to think that I had to be with the person for at least 2 to 3 years before we got married. So when my husband proposed to me, I was kind of taken aback. Of course I wanted the ring. I mean, who doesn't? But I felt like our marriage was doomed because we weren't together long enough. And it's such a huge misconception. I believe when a man knows and when a woman knows, when y'all know, you really know. And sometimes it takes 2 years, sometimes it takes 3 years, sometimes it's a week, So,
and I think regardless of the time that it takes, as long as you seek counsel in whatever way to have that foundation, to know how to, okay, yes, we only knew each other for 2 weeks, but what happens when you get mad? Like, how are we going to deal with that? Like, those type of things, I think that makes a difference, whether you're together for 10 years or shorter.
Yeah, that was a non-negotiable for my husband. He was adamant that we went to premarital counseling. I wasn't against it. For me, it was a given as well, because that's kind of how I was raised. It was just a part of the process, but he kind of made it clear, like, if this is not going to happen, if we're not going to go to premarital counseling, then this is not going to work, because I want you to be able to understand me in a different perspective, just like how I'd like to understand you in a different perspective. And I'm not going to say we have never had problems. We have, to be honest. I didn't think we were going to make it past year 1, but we had a foundation. We knew what we wanted, and we worked towards it.
Right. Yeah. Common goals and being equally yoked. That's all I'm hearing. Yeah.
Absolutely. So tonight we are going to be talking about what's your purpose as a wife, because one thing we do, well, I do realize, is that a lot of us young women, we get married and we don't know what to expect next. We just think it's going to be a bed of roses. We think it's going to be the happily ever after that we see in the movies. I blame Disney because that's all we see growing up. It's like, oh, the princess kissed the frog and they lived happily ever after, and Cinderella got her slipper back and they lived happily ever after. Like, that's not reality. The truth is, the real work starts after you say I do.
Right.
And a lot of us women sometimes get caught up with being brides, and we forget that being a bride is just for a moment, just for a day, and then you're a wife for a lifetime. So it was hard for me in the beginning, because I can admit this now. I feel like I walked into my marriage blind, in the sense that, yes, I wanted to get married. Yes, I love this person. Yes, I cared for him, but I didn't know what happened next. And I think that was the reason for a lot of the discord that we experienced in our first year of marriage. Because
in quarantine, also, sorry to interrupt you, but your first year of marriage was also in quarantine.
It was quarantine, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I found that we would quarrel and argue about the silliest things. And now I look back, it was because I was so focused on me. I felt like, okay, Melissa, you're married now, but you still got to do you. You know, you got to be real to yourself. You ain't going to do this for no dude. Like, nah. I approached it so wrong. And I remember my husband and I we were in an argument one night, and things got so heated, got so bad. I never saw him that upset. He got up and he was so mad. He walked out the room and he punched the wall. And he punched the wall so hard that the electricity in that side of the house went out. Yikes. And I was like, what in the hell did I get married to? Wow. But then I had to stop. I had to step back, and I had to look at, okay, Melissa, what did you do, or what could you have possibly done to cause this to happen? You know, and not to put like a blame on myself or to any blame on him, but I realized I wasn't fighting fair. I just wanted to, and I wanted him to conform to my way, and that was it. No ifs, ands, or buts, no nothing. And we have to understand that that's not how it works. Yes, our spouses may do things that we don't necessarily like, but that doesn't give us the permission to try to control the situation. Right. I always tell my clients, whenever you get to a place where you feel like you can't control what's happening, and you feel like there's so much emotion involved and you're ready to walk away, that's when you need to really seek help. You seek guidance. And there's still such a huge taboo in our community about mental health. You know, for example, the pandemic was horrible to me in the sense that I was pregnant. I was going through a lawsuit with my job because they refused to grant me permission to work from home, even though I had a who was pregnant, and they made her work from home. So I had to get a lawyer involved. It was kind of messy. And I got to the point where my job eventually became furloughed, and all the strain kind of landed in my husband's lap. He had to take care of everything. And when I saw everything he had to do, I was kind of like, you know what? I respect this so much, because he didn't have to do any of this. He didn't have to do any of this, but he's standing by me. And some of that kind of helped me to learn to trust him more. I was so used to doing the me, and I saw him for who he was, a provider, a protector. And then it made me think, okay, Melissa, then what's your purpose as a wife? What to be doing? And then I realized, okay, I'm supposed to be by his side. I'm supposed to be his supporter. I'm supposed to be his motivator. He's not always going to be strong. There are going to be times when he's weak. I need to be there to pick him up when he's fallen. I need to be there to dry the tears. I need to be there to be his support. And that's just how we've been. And that's just how we've been. Yeah. So about you, what kind of experiences have you had with Dr. Charles? I have to be respectful when I call this man's name.
Well, I mean, I'm still enamored in your story. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I know I am so sorry I'm pronouncing it wrong probably, but just said this is so needed. I'm glad I can listen in tonight. I agree. I think we need to hear more of these stories, because we just see you know, we just see either, I feel like we either grow up seeing really negative, unhealthy
Yeah.
relationships, or we just see these like fairy tale and there's no in between. And Zena, hey girl, I
I
feel like a lot of times, that in between is what's real and normal. And I
mhm.
talk about, you know, sharing the stories of healthy relationships. But when I say healthy relationships, I don't want people to hear that and think healthy means perfect,
Oh,
because it doesn't. And a lot of times, things will happen, but it's how you navigate it.
mhm.
Yeah, Raina, I agree. That was such a great
Yeah.
story. So,
And
I hear people say like marriage is hard, and I know it's only been 6 months, but I still feel like marriage isn't hard. And maybe if we do this again 6 months from now or 10 years from now, I'll change my mind. But I like to argue that I think life is hard. And I think sometimes people feel like marriage is hard because we're thinking about all the different things that happen in life. Because when I was talking to Charles and I was arguing with him about like marriage isn't hard, it's life that's hard. And he was like, yeah, but what about when you have kids? And I'm like, well, the kids are hard. Like, or what about the bills? I'm like, the bills are hard then. Like, is it marriage? Like,
look at it. That's so optimistic. I love.
yes. I'm like, if you are my best friend and it's, am I back? Yeah, I'm back. My 6:30 alarm went off, but usually here like it's us against the world. Like that's how I kind of see marriage. Like this is me and my best friend, and it's us fighting against the world in life. So when I think of the purpose of marriage, I feel like God has assigned me someone to protect and someone to protect me, and it's us
Mm,
against the world. Like, and
yes.
I forgot what song it is, but is it Back at One where it's like you my mama, my sister, my brother, like whatever. Like he's talking about his girl and how his girl is like basically
Oh,
fills all of those things. And I agree with that. Like sometimes Charles feels like my son. I'm like, did you take your vitamins? Like I'm like asking him things like this, things like that. Like
yes.
so I really do feel like they become in a way, the father figure, the brother, the best friend.
Mhm.
And with that, there's going to be challenges, because life gets hard and that the stresses that we experience. And a lot of times we end up, because there are safe space, um, we end up putting, I'm not thinking of the right word, but we end up, kind of casting whatever our frustrations is on them because they're our safe space. So it's kind of like if I had a rough day at work or I'm not feeling good because of what's going on social media, it's easy for me to spew it at Charles and be like, I can't stand you today, blah, blah.
Uh,
And again, to me, that's not marriage being hard. That's life. And then me then putting that onto my husband. So I just feel like as a wife, yes, there's challenging times, but how do we navigate it? And when we're dealing with times where we can't navigate it, how are we seeking counsel? So I'll share, since you shared that really nice, intimate story. Maybe when we were just a month in of marriage, I was really, really struggling at work. And a lot of it was exasperated because of the pandemic and working from home and trying to readjust. But the other piece of it was not being satisfied with what I was doing and the way I was being treated at work. And a lot of it was my expectations of I have this doctorate, like I'm supposed to be happy at work in my career, like what's going on? And I went through a period. So we got married in June. So let's say July, like I was crying every single day, like
oh,
on my knees, like crying, like, God, like I just
oh,
want to quit. Like I'm going to quit my job. And I never got to a point where I wanted to do that. But um, Charles had to figure out how to navigate through this. So I think a lot of the reason why he was attracted to me was because I've always been this ambitious, like, I'm going to be a doctor one day. I'm going to run my business one day. Like, I was always really ambitious. And here I am on the floor crying, talking about I'm going to quit my job. So I
mm,
think that was very hard for him to know, like, how do I navigate this as a husband? Like, I know if I allow her to quit her job, like, maybe she won't be happy because she gets a thrive of like having work to go to every day, but at the same time she's crying every day. So how do I navigate that? And so we called on our financial advisor to see like, okay, how does this shift our financial goals? So back to being equally yoked, like if anything is going to change in the relationship, it's important that you guys are back on the same page with having similar goals. So, okay, if she quits her job, what does that mean for her goals or for our financial goals? So, meeting with our financial advisor was important, but then also going back to our premarital counselor who knew us really well and saying like, hey, we need this toolkit. Like, how do we navigate through this situation? And long story short, I didn't end up quitting. But that's just an example of how life was hard on me and it was impacting my marriage because I wasn't happy and I was crying every day, that I was lashing out and I wasn't fighting fair. And I think what really saved us in that moment was taking a step back and going back to seeking counsel. And that's why I think, you know, even with my my Facebook group, Flourishing in Love, it's just so important to have a community of positive couples who are experiencing real life stuff that you can then go to and be like, y'all, Delores get on my nerve today. Like, you know, they could be like, my girl too, but we love them. Like, you know what I mean? Where you can just kind of have that jokey, but then also get resources, I think is just so important. But yeah, when I think about, you know, kind of going back to my purpose as a wife, I also see it as like someone who's praying and encouraging my husband. Like it's a huge sense of responsibility, and you have a child, so you know it. But I kind of so far see it as like, maybe this is how I'm gonna feel when I'm a mother. Like I have this man, I mean, he's not a baby, but this grown man that like I'm responsible for, in the sense that like I'm here to encourage him to help his dreams come true, to and vice versa. You know, it should go both ways. But you know, I just think of that as like an added purpose into my life of like, I want him to continue to seek a relationship with God. I want him to continue to, you know, fulfill his career pursuits. I want him to, you know, like all those different things. And I kind of equate it to being a mother, because I'm sure you look at your child and think the same thing, like, wow, God gave me this person and I want their dreams to come true and I want to cultivate that. Yeah. So that's how I see it with being a wife.
Yeah, I got two little ones, so I get that. I understand it completely. Like I was talking to my son today. He's in love with Legos. He loves everything Legos, and he would sit and this morning he built two towers and he called them the Twin Towers. My son is 7. He doesn't know anything about 9/11. So I went a whole lecture and I taught him about 9/11, and he said, Mom, you know what?
Wait. Sorry to interrupt you. How old is your son?
He's
He's 7?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm picturing the baby. I'm like, how are you having this whole
there's
I'm
okay,
like, your son is smart.
he's 7 and my daughter is 6 months.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay. So he said, Mommy, I'm gonna build the Twin Towers. And I was like, okay. Told him about the story about the Twin Towers and everything, showed him some videos, showed him like what was happening, which really triggered me. I should never have done that, because it just brought me back to 9/11 all over. And he said to me after everything was done, he said, you know what? I'm going to be an architect one day so I can rebuild the Twin Towers. And I was like, I birthed this kid. Mm-hmm. This is beautiful. But there's nothing that's more attractive to me than a man who is in love with God. Yeah. And today I was in the kitchen. I was just like watching TV, you know, fooling around on my computer. And my husband just comes and drags my hand and pulls me into his office. And at first I was like, oh, okay, well, what are we going to do? You know? Mm-hmm. And then he was like, can you kneel down with me? And I was like, mm-hmm. And he just started to pray. And I was like, okay, God, this is beautiful. And I just felt this overwhelming need to pray after he did. And I asked God to really cover him and keep him and bless him. You know, he's the head. And if he's not well, then we're not well. And I just loved on him. And I showed God how much I loved and appreciated the man that he is. If this was 2 years ago, it would have been like, that prayer would have been about me. Right. You know? And I think we've grown to mature, and well, I've matured in the sense that I care more about his overall well-being, his soul, you know, his lifestyle. I support his dreams, I support his aspirations, but I also realize that without God, none of this even matters. It makes the fact that he has God as his center puts me in a position to understand purpose even more. Right. It's like, okay, this is his goal, this is where his head is at, this is what he's praying and asking God for, so I'm gonna be his support and support those prayers and pray that God brings it to fruition if it's in his will. Right. So I don't know, I feel like in a way a mouthpiece, I think that's a good term to use, but I think a mouthpiece just enhancing my husband's voice. Yeah.
literally like the cheerleader, the prayer warrior. And I think,
Yes.
you know, even in this climate, which I can't even say this climate because this has been our climate, you
Oh,
know, since the beginning of times, but just, you know, also being married to a black man, like I never, I mean, I knew it when we were dating, but I think once we got married, like I felt that pressure even more, especially when COVID hit and he's in the hospital. For those who don't know us too well, my husband's a physician, so he's in the hospital saving lives, working in the emergency room. And then when he leaves the hospital, he's in a hoodie. This was when he was working in New York City. He's in a hoodie walking from home, a black man. And that would just break my heart because when COVID happened in March, that's when we were also seeing George Floyd. So that
yeah.
parallel of
Yeah.
my husband's in the emergency room saving lives, lives that don't look like us because he was in Manhattan. So I mean, just different lives. And then he's respected in that light, but when he walks out and he's in his hoodie, anything can happen. And so as a wife, I'm like praying, I'm up all night, like praying he doesn't get COVID and then praying he doesn't get innocently, you
Yeah.
know, hurt because of his skin color. So that I feel like adds an added pressure when you are dating a man of color, a black man.
Absolutely.
Um, yeah.
That's a big fear of mine too. When we had just gotten married, my husband, he's a photographer, so he has a lot of shoots. Well, how would I put it? He has a lot of shoots in different places that requires him to travel,
Mm-hmm.
and I used to have a hard time handling that, just because it was in the height of George Floyd and all these different protests and more police brutality, and I turned on his Google location so at least I could know where he was at every time. And I remember sharing that with some friends and they were like, "Oh, you don't trust your husband? You think he's going to step out?" I'm like, "No. I don't trust people."
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
something as simple like he will run to the store to get formula for the baby and I have to check the location just to make sure he's okay, to make
Yeah.
sure he's not in the same position too long, you know. It just built this paranoia up in me and it got so bad to the place where we had to go back to our premarital counselor for guidance, and it was kind of like, "Melissa, regardless, there's nothing you can do even if he's in that situation, and even if you were there, what would you do?"
Yeah.
You
Yeah. I
know what?
remember. Yes, I was gonna say, I remember one day Charles told me he was on his way home, and then it was like an hour and a half later. I'm like, usually it takes him 45 minutes. And I'm not even like infidelity, I'm not even going there. My mind is like, is he okay? Did something
Yeah.
happen? And
Yeah.
then I call him like, where are you? Like you were supposed to be home 45 minutes ago. And he's like, oh, I went to Walgreens, you know, I'm just, you know, eating a snack, get Doritos. I'm like, if something happened to you and someone asked, when was the last time you saw your husband? I would be like, something must have happened on his way home from work. I don't know,
Right.
you're at Walgreens, like, you know,
Right.
so now we're implementing like, hey, I'm going to the beauty supply store. Hey, I just got home. I think that communication is so important, and it's not a trust thing. It's just, it's a making sure that we're safe and that we know, God forbid, if anything happens, we know where to track, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I absolutely agree with you. That's something that I it still drives me crazy. I'm learning to get a better handle on all of that. But I still feel the need to like tag along wherever I can, because
Mm-hmm.
I feel like if I'm there, then maybe people will feel less threatened. Maybe they won't just see a black man. Maybe they will, you know, have their guard down because a woman is with him. All
Right.
these stuff, you know.
Right.
I remember we were driving home. We were driving from Georgia, back to Florida. Well, this was when we lived in Florida. Oh, she fell off. Oh, I know she was having connectivity issues. She's probably gonna log back in real quick. Let me see here if I can invite her. Okay. All right, we're just waiting for her to come in. Oh, here she
Oh,
comes.
good. Good.
Yeah.
There we go. Sorry about that.
That's fine. I remember we were driving home from Georgia, and right as we got close to the border of Florida, we got pulled over by a cop. And the cop was a white officer, and he seemed polite at first.
Mm.
And truthfully, my husband was speeding. And he don't like that I say that, but it's the truth. He kind of was speeding. And he deserved to get a ticket for speeding. Let's just be real. But the officer asked him to step out the car. And for me, that's not protocol. And it made me tense up. Now, at the time, our son is in the back seat and I'm pregnant. And I'm like, okay, wait a minute. What's happening here? I was on my laptop. I had to shut everything down. I needed to see everything. I had my phone out ready to record because I wanted to see what was happening. Thankfully, nothing happened. He just explained the ticket to my husband. But in the same breath, it was kind of like, bro, don't do that. Don't ask that man to step out of his car. Like, don't do that, you know? So I've just learned, especially over these last two years, to be more of a support system, more of a backbone, more of an extension of him, if that, you know, I used to think that becoming a wife meant to put all my dreams, my goals, my hopes on the back burner. And that's not what it is. I can still be whatever I want to be. I can still do whatever I want to do. And it's even better that I have a husband who encourages me to do whatever I want. He would jokingly say, I want you home barefoot and pregnant, but he doesn't mean that.
Right.
I think.
Is he there?
I know, but he encourages me to go after my dreams, and I encourage him to go after his. But there's nothing more satisfying to me than being an extension of him, because without his happiness, without him being the head of our household, nothing is gonna work. Let's just keep it a buck. We come from a generation where we are so prone to being independent that we tend to frown on the fact that we have to become submissive to our, you know, that word is such a trigger word, but
yeah, it is.
Understand what submission is, and it's not, yes sir, okay man, so what do you need, sir? I'll do it, sir. No, that's not what it is. It's a supportive, I heard someone say in Clubhouse the other day, it's submitting to the mission, and the mission Christ, and to be a reflection of God. So what our husband's duty is, we should be an extension of what he is and who he is, and of course healing ourselves in the process. So I haven't like I've learned a lot so far, and I have helped so many women who struggle, and some of them are married maybe now for maybe 4 or 5 years. I still consider that newlywed stage, and they're so confused. They feel like, oh, but we love each other. What happened? Where did it go wrong? And then we chat for a little bit, and I find out, there it is. Communication is the problem. There it is. You guys have commitment issues. Yes, you signed that paper, but if he's not coming home at night, or you're staying out hanging out with your girlfriends instead of coming home and, you know, chatting with your husband, there's a commitment issue right there. You know, of course.
That's why when they say, you know, being equally yoked is so important. And I think for those of you who are watching and dating someone, like, look at those signs. Like, are we equally yoked? Like, are we able to get on the same page and have similar goals and plans where we can support each other's goals, and it's going towards like our main legacy? And I feel like if you can't, that's just going to make I feel like that's when marriage is hard, you know, because you're just on 2 different wavelengths, and I feel like that just doesn't work. And I'm not saying you have to both have exactly the same goal, but it should be going towards like your family legacy, like what you guys agree on. So you can submit to that in the sense of supporting each other through that and doing what you guys have to do to get there.
You know, it's say that because unfortunately a lot of women today, and men, they want to get married for the gram. It's the hype, it's the likes, it's the engagements, it's the it's all of the popular stuff. You know, it's because he looks handsome and he's chocolate and he has abs, or it's because she's beautiful with long hair and, you know, whatever. Like, looks are gonna fail, people. They're gonna fade. You know, it's not gonna last forever. I was not the same size when I married my husband, and in all fairness, I had a kid, so I got an excuse. So
can I use quarantine?
And quarantine, with this quarantine too. And it's the same thing with our spouses, our husbands. One thing my husband and I realized, because we used to be active in the gym very heavy, and once quarantine hit and then we had the baby, that was not a priority anymore. So all the abs that we used to have, all the firmness and all that, it starts to fade away because we're no longer able to commit our time to that. Now it's
Mm-hmm.
at 2, 3 a.m., feeding the baby, changing the butt, helping this one with the homework and taking him to Taekwondo and all this stuff. So our priorities shift. And what I
Right.
men is, and men as well, when you get married, if their intention is to be married for the looks or for the hype or for the likes, once you start having kids, if that's your choice, all
Mm-hmm.
change. All that's gonna
Yeah. I think, I saw someone post, and I think I posted something similar, like social media is fun, but like our real life is like just as fun. Like your real life
yeah.
should be just as amazing as what you're putting out. And it is sad that, so many people put out these fake, like fairy tale stories of what's going on in their marriage or their relationship. And as soon as that camera, like as soon as they kiki, take the picture and post it, then they're fighting and they're
Yep.
miserable. And then, young women are watching that and just saying, God, like, why does she have this perfect marriage? Why can't I have that? And it's not real. And so my hope is that I try to put out the real stories of like what's going on with us. But that's why it goes back to being equally yoked and being on the same page is so,
Yeah.
so important. And back to what you were saying with, looking at the superficial stuff of like, I just want to find man I can post on social media. Like that to me, like when we're talking about purpose as a wife, like let's talk about purpose as a husband. Like that is not going to be what you want for a husband, because like you said, one, looks fade. And two, when we think about a husband, when we think about a provider, same things for when I think about myself, someone who's a provider, a cheerleader, just because he looks great, is he all of that? Can we have those deep conversations? Will he pray over me at night when I'm sleeping? I feel
Yes.
like all of that is important. And I'll admit, 20-year-old Delores, who was looking at Charles, I was like, he's nerdy. He's too innocent. I don't like the way he dressed. Like I was thinking about all of the superficial stuff that doesn't make a husband. And thank God a lot of my friends were like, girl, you could buy his clothes, girl, like these things don't matter. And I'm really grateful for that, because I got a husband and not just someone who's cute for social media. And that's really important. And so I think if, people who are watching, if you're dating someone and they're not fulfilling, I think start dating as if you're dating your husband. And if that's not fulfilling who you want as a husband, a provider, a cheerleader, a best friend, you may want to reconsider so that you can get someone like that, because that is what's going to make marriage amazing. Because I'm still going to say marriage is not hard. Life is hard.
You got it right, girl. I know
Mm-hmm.
that perspective, but you got it right for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So as it pertains to finally settling down in the role of wife, do you think this is anything like what you envisioned it was going to be, maybe when you were a kid or in your early adult years?
So I'm grateful. I'm so grateful, because for me as a kid, the relationships that I saw just were very negative, in the sense that they even seemed like they wanted to be together, like that they weren't happy, or it was just like super dramatic. So I didn't see the most positive examples of marriage. And it wasn't until I started trying to make money at my cheerleading coach's house. I would like clean around her house to make a little money in high school. And I would see how her and her husband would interact. And it wasn't like perfect, like, hello, honey, I'm in love with you. But just seeing little things, like when he would leave the house, he would give her a kiss. Like just those little things. I'm like, wow, this is what marriage is like. Like they like each other. Like they're working with each other. They're communicating. So I'm thankful I got that view of what marriage is like. And then that's when I started realizing, like, I want that. Like I want a family. I want to be with someone who's going to help me build our legacy. And so for me, that's how I see marriage. But I will say, when we got married, because we got married completely untraditional, we were planning this big wedding and then COVID happened. So we got married in an apartment. But I think in the sense that was a gift, because we got to focus on the marriage and not the wedding, which no shade to the big wedding, because I definitely still want to have a nice big
Girl,
wedding. But we really got to focus on our friendship and our love. But I will say that after, when the pastor was on Zoom and it was like, okay, you guys are married, I'm like, that's it? Like, I felt like I got scammed. I'm like, So some guy just said some, some things from the Bible and announced that we're married, and then we're married. And I'm looking at him like, you still the same person? I'm still the same person. So I feel like a lot of times when we hear marriage, and I think sometimes men, are a little afraid to get married because they think like their life is going to change and they're going to lose whatever. Like really your life continues the way that it already has. Like, and that's why I think in the dating phase, it's so important to have that foundation and pour things into your relationship right away, because that's going to carry into your marriage. So I think a lot of times women are like, okay, when we get married, he's going to change. Like, it's just going to be the day two. Like, you know what I mean? Like the same thing. And, my friends would call me like, so how's marriage life like? And I'm just like, and then I started getting worried, like, wait, like, I started asking my married friends, like, wait, how am I supposed to feel? Like, something's supposed to be different. Like, and for me, the biggest thing was that, we went from being long distance for so long and to now we get to see each other every day. So for us, that was the exciting thing. Like, you wake up the next day and it's like, you're still here. But I will say, like, after 15 days, I'm like, you're still here. Like,
And you must be.
yes. So space and having your own life definitely is important. But I definitely think that the expectation of marriage is just so warped.
Yeah.
And I think it just makes people afraid when really it's just an extension of your relationship. But now you have that commitment of like, we're in this together forever. And now we have shared family goals, and how do we get there? But I don't know. It was just like another day, another day for us.
Oh my.
Hi, Astrid.
Love that. Hi, Astrid. I'm super excited when I get around married folks because, well, one, I've always wanted to be married. Again, I wasn't raised in a family that was traditional in the sense. Well, let me take that back. On the outside looking in, it looked traditional. My parents, even to this day, are still married, but have been separated for over 13 years.
Wow.
But they don't divorce. I'm not getting in grown folks' business.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't really see a good reflection of what marriage was supposed to be. Again, in public, everything looked great, but behind closed doors, there was no love. There was no affection. In all the years that I lived with my parents, I've never seen them kiss. I've never seen them play around with each other.
Yeah.
It was arguing. It was always fighting. It was always bickering. And even times I was always called into the fights to mediate. And I'm like, as an adult, I'm looking back now like, yeah, y'all shouldn't have done that. Like, that's not my place. But okay, I always wanted the opposite though. It's not like I saw it on television or, I just felt like that's not how it's supposed to be. You're supposed to be married and love each other. Like if you're preaching the word of God to me and I'm using the word of God as a catalyst, then I don't think this is how it's supposed to look.
Right.
I wanted the opposite. And when things did not work out with the last relationship I was in before my husband, I made a vow to God, like, look, I'm not going to keep going through this. I would rather stay by myself and just be happy being me, being content, than having to keep going through these different men who were jokes. Let's just keep the buck. They were jokes. And when I met my husband, I kind of had that same mentality. Like, if he don't show me what I need, then whatever. I'm not taking this dude serious. And he stepped up to the plate and he treated me like he found a wife. He found it. He put me on that pedestal to say, I value you. I care about you. I'm going to make an honest woman out of you. I'm going to honor you and make you my wife. Any man who can do that, I respect.
Yes.
These are trying to play around and just, tell you what you want to hear and whisper the sweet nothings in your ear and get what they want and move on. But for a man to say, you know what? She's different. She's special. I can't do that with her. I'm going to make an honest woman out of her. There's nothing more attractive to me.
Yeah. The sad thing is that, similar to us not having a lot of healthy examples of marriage, like I feel like men really don't see a lot of that. And I think that's when we see a lot of the men that are jokes that maybe they would want to take a woman seriously, but they just don't know how. And they're stuck in this. But I think that's why, like, we're not here to save y'all, man. Like, you need to go therapy and figure that out. But I just wish that was more normalized because, it's preventing a lot of like successful, and I'm just speaking of Black women as a Black woman, a
Yeah.
lot of amazing, successful Black women who want to marry. It's preventing a lot of them to be able to, find their mate because, we have too many Black men that aren't trying to seek therapy and aren't trying to heal from these childhood traumas that are preventing them from wanting, a more committed relationship.
Yeah. Yeah, it's unfortunate. I think mental health in the African American community has always been a strain because we're taught either what happens behind closed doors stays behind closed doors, or we're told that therapy is for crazy people. And
Mm-hmm.
I get it. I used to think just like that. I was recommended for therapy almost 10 years ago, and I was like, excuse me? Like the Jamaican in me was like, oh no, the disrespect.
Mm-hmm.
But then I gave it a chance and I realized, wow, I'm actually feeling better. And
Mm-hmm.
I realized over this last year with everything that happened with George Floyd, with Breonna Taylor and Ahmaud Arbery, with all that stuff,
Mm-hmm.
it was triggering the Black community like never before. Like we've always known of the injustices in our community. We've always seen it. And in some cases, we've become numb to it. Like when I've heard, um, uh, who was it? It was another young Black man that lost his life. And my response was kind of like, okay. And it's so sad because it's like the norm. And to
Right.
see everybody get on the same page this past summer to really speak up about the violence at the hands of police to our African American men and women, it was tough. Men started to pull their layers back, and women too, but men
Mm-hmm.
really started to pull their layers back and get into therapy and let
Mm-hmm.
things out. And I love, I don't know if you know the radio show The Breakfast Club. I love me some Charlemagne the God, and
Yeah. Yeah.
about mental health in the Black community. And I love it. I love to see men grow and evolve. And I think it makes them better husbands.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
Rayshard Brooks, that gentleman in Atlanta, I think it was. Yes. Um, but yeah, I think it makes them better husbands. I think it makes them better mates because not only can they be honest with themselves, but they can be honest with their wives.
Yes. Say that.
It. I
Say
love
that. And it's okay to be vulnerable and have
it.
those conversations.
Absolutely.
Because kind of going back to being equally yoked, being partners, like if I'm your partner and you can't have a vulnerable conversation with me, then what
What's
are
my
we doing? Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yep, yep. I love that. I absolutely love that. I think that we are now in a whole new era, if that makes sense. In the
Mm-hmm.
that men and women are no longer looked down on for wanting to seek help, wanting to
Yeah.
explain, and even in their relationships, in their marriages, it's not a bad thing to say, "Hey, I think we need to go to therapy."
Mm-hmm.
Some cases there's some men who are still like on the fence, and women too, let's just keep it a buck.
Mm-hmm.
There's some who are just still unsure, and I can be the one to tell you as an advocate, therapy is everything.
Yeah.
Therapy and come out with like a whole weight off my shoulders, feeling like
Right.
skip and
And
dance.
finding the right therapist. I want to highlight, I think Astrid said normalizing finding therapy in the good and the bad times. And then I think Jess said, there was something that Jess just said that was really good. Oh yeah, we need to treat therapy the same way we treat getting our annuals. It should
Yeah,
be a normal part of our life. And I think that some people try therapy and unfortunately get a therapist that's not so good. And I don't want to say not so good because they
it's,
got the training, but just isn't a good fit. Like everyone's
yeah,
personality is not gonna click. So
right.
that's okay to change. Like I've had therapists where I felt like, all right, I think our job is done here, and not that they weren't good, but we've worked through the part that I wanted to work through that they're an expert in. And now I'm ready
Yeah,
to go find someone else for another area that I really want to work on. And I think that's okay because too many times we expect our partner to be our therapist or our best friend to be our therapist. And it's like, no, we are not your therapist. It's two
well,
different roles.
I always use when I encourage people to go to therapy. Going to therapy is like walking into a DSW. You see a whole row of shoes that look great, they're beautiful. you don't just grab a pair and head to the cashier, pay for it, and leave. You try it
Right
on a little bit, you look at it in the mirror, you see if it's a good fit, and if it is, then you take it and you purchase it and you leave. However, you can get home and you realize the shoes you bought don't really match the outfit you got. It's nice shoes, but it's just not going to work for what you need it for. So you take it back, return it, and you find another one. It's the same with therapy.
I love that.
You're not confined to one therapist. And I'm speaking as a therapist to be. I'm actually studying to be a marriage and family therapist. So
Yay!
that's my thing. I'm going to have doctor in front of my name, just like you said.
Yes, Dr. Melissa. I love that because I love the analogy you gave, and I'm going to start using that. When I started therapy, I didn't know. Well, one, I'm suffer from being a people pleaser, but I just thought like, okay, like I don't want her to be like sad if she finds out that I leave or that I'm not there. And then I was also thinking like, I don't want to have to like tell my story all over again. But now I've gotten a lot better of like, it's just not a good fit, or, you know, hey, thank you so much for help. Like, you know, you have that exit of like, hey, thank you so much. I think we're good with what we worked on, and now I'm ready to move on. Like, that is okay, you know? But yes, that was such a great analogy.
Yeah. Oh, beautiful. Thank you, ladies. Thank you. Like, therapy's like next to love. That's my next favorite thing to talk about.
Yes.
But the great thing is that we have supportive partners who want to see us flourish, who want to see us grow. But unfortunately, some of the people who follow us, some of the people who love our work are not as blessed, and they may struggle with different issues in their relationship that they may need help with. First, let me just tell you guys, there's no reason to be ashamed at all. There's no marriage, no relationship that's perfect. And I want us to try to remove that stigma around asking for help. For me personally, I'm not yet a licensed therapist. However, I am a relationship coach, and I do help couples, women. I help women set goals in their lives to help make their marriages better. So just to be transparent, I don't tell you how to fix your marriage. I tell you how to fix you. And in turn, that will help you become a better wife. So again, if you guys ever need anything, send me a DM, you know, follow my page, do what you need to do, because I love love and I want to help everybody. Like, I do not like that D word.
I don't say it.
That word combination in this house. If you slip up and curse a word, I would rather hear anything except that one.
Right.
I believe that love is ordained by God, marriage is ordained by God, and we're gonna make it work.
Yes.
Work, you know. Yes. So I love what you've put together, Delores. I'm sorry, Dr. Delores.
Oh, girl, Delores is fine.
I love the community that you have. I didn't know about the Facebook group. I'm gonna join that shortly.
Yes, please. You know, I reposted one of something you said, and I try to have a discussion around it. But yes, I would love to have you in the group.
You be talking about
giving us that knowledge. Yes. Yeah.
I feel so much goosebumps. I feel so honored, man. You don't even understand how much love I have for you. Like,
oh, Melissa, you know I'm a fan too. I'm definitely a fan of the work that you do.
Yeah, thank you. But I definitely want to join that group. I want to be able to flourish as well. And I would definitely invite everyone who's in here, if you're not a part of that group, to go ahead and join that group. I see some questions coming in, and I guess if you have the time, do you want to answer some questions?
Sure. As we're so definitely, you know, send your questions in. I'll talk a little bit about the Facebook group. So it's called Flourishing in Love. It's a Facebook group for millennial couples, and it's really just a means to normalize healthy relationships, allow couples to have other couple friends. Right now it's COVID pandemic, so we are in the house, but we've been doing monthly date nights. We've done a game night. We've done one centered around keeping your faith centered in your relationship. So we pick different topics depending on what folks are interested in. But February 18th, if you go to my bio or my website, February 18th, we have our next date night, and that's on the love languages. So definitely, yes, we'd love to have you and Javon join us, maybe even host.
That's for the month.
Oh, good. Yes, and we'd love to have you host one in the future for us. So I definitely want to continue collaborating with us. Oh, more of this. Love this. Thank you, girl.
Thank you.
Yes, queens empowering queens. We need more of that. And I think all
Yes.
of the ladies I've been seeing in the chat, I'm very familiar with you all, my friends or social media friends. Like, let's just continue to collaborate, not only with us, me and Melissa, but with each other. There's just so many amazing women watching this right now. So I definitely appreciate you all being here.
So I do see a question from Astrid. She said, what are some of the most common struggles that you find occur in marriages? I could tell you off the bat. The number one is communication. Patient. I find that couples, they speak their own language and they have their own love language. And this is something that I think most people don't understand. Everyone has their own love language, but knowing your love language, I don't want to say it doesn't matter, but it's not as important as understanding your partner's love language, because you may enjoy quality time and your partner may enjoy words of affirmation. But if you're only doing things about quality time, then your partner is going to feel like you don't, because you don't speak their love language. And that's a lack of communication. That's what it's down to. So getting to understand who your spouse is, getting to understand what their love language is going to help build your relationship. So I would recommend, if you have never read this book, The 5 Love Languages by Dr. Gary Chapman, get this book. I think on Amazon it's probably $15, if not less.
Right.
But it's a really good book, and it helps you to understand how you should approach your partner in terms of, their love language and so forth. So communication is a big one. Finances is another one. Remember, for the most part, before you get married, you're living 2 separate lives to an extent. You have one way of handling your money. They have another way. When you guys come together, the expectation is that there's going to be an understanding with how the money is spent. Yes, you may have your little, private personal account, and he may have his, or you guys may have a joint or whatever. But at the end of the day, if there's not an understanding with how that money is spent, it's going to be a problem, and that problem can destroy your marriage. So my suggestion is have this conversation before you get married. And even if you already got married and, you didn't talk about it, it's never too late. Have a discussion about how you guys want to spend your money, where you want to spend it, how you want to save it. What are your goals? What are your plans? What are you guys working towards? These conversations are important because it's detrimental to your relationship. Absolutely detrimental. I've been blessed now because of, I guess, everything that's going on. My husband has put me in a position where if I want to go to work, I can. If I want to stay home, I can. Because financially, we made a plan and we're sticking to it. Not just the willy-nilly, we're going to do this, we're going to splurge and buy this and go. No, that's not how it is. There has to be an understanding. You can still have your money and be married, and that's the big misconception. The misconception is that because you're married now, oh, he want my money, oh, she want my money. No, you can still have your money and be married and happy. But you guys just have to have an understanding.
Right. Like Josephine said, important conversations before marriage. And it's like, whatever you guys choose to do, at least you have that conversation and you know what your plan is. Back to being equally yoked, back to having a laid foundation before it. And that's why I just want to stress again for those women who are dating but not married, like, look out for those signs and start laying that foundation right now, because that will leak into your marriage. So back to Astrid's question about what are the most common problems, I think a lot of it is not laying certain foundations prior to getting married. Is so important. And now we learn this through premarital counseling, but we have business meetings, and that's when we know, hey, we're having a serious conversation. This is about our long-term legacy goal. It's time for a business meeting, babe. This is what I have on the agenda. What do you have on the agenda? Okay, so when it comes to our finances, I seen the blah, 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 blah. Or just those little things where okay, this is the time for us to come on the same page and make sure that we're working towards the same goals and having that communication. And then also having an opportunity to be honest. Every year, if not twice a year, but at least every year, we try to talk about, we usually do it on our anniversary. So what's going well? what do you, and sometimes you have to get out your feelings, because when you say what's not going well
Yes.
and you ask, you're going to hear it. And
Yes.
so, but the point is not to make you feel bad, but it's to really work on, like, okay, what can we do better? Like, how can I make you happier? And I think a big part of marriage is that we don't want the D word, I'm not going to say it, but we don't want to get to the point where we're apart. So how do we work towards choosing each other every day? And I think that sometimes we forget, like, we are humans with a choice. Like, every day we have a choice. Like,
Yes.
although I don't want to imagine my life without Charles, I have a choice whether I want to be with him or not. And so how do I make sure that he's choosing me every day and I'm choosing him every day? What are some things that, how can I love on him and his love language and vice versa? And I think that's why it's important to have those conversations of, okay, what went really well for us this year? It seems cheesy, but it's important to do.
No.
Because for men, like, a lot of times they're not going to offer that conversation. I feel like for women,
No.
like, we could be eating cereals and be like, you still like me? But men just aren't going to, I'm just generalizing, but aren't going to always say that. So I think when you really sit down and have that conversation of what's going well, what's not going well, what can I do better? What are our goals for next year? I think it's so important, because if we're doing that for work every year, why aren't we doing that in our personal lives? Yeah.
Absolutely. That's crazy you say that, because whenever I sit with my husband and let's say I want to have a meeting about, where our relationship is going and stuff, the first thing he'll always say to me is, why you have to make everything so corporate? Why can't you turn off your corporate switch? Everything is so corporate with you. Why can't we just have a conversation? And I realized that I'm just structured that way. I can't help it. But it always turns out to be beneficial, because you never really know what's going on in your spouse's mind, because a lot of times they don't really open up.
Right.
I would ask him a question and he would say to me, all right, I'm going to tell you this, but I don't want you to be mad. Like, we give each other disclaimers, like, look, don't be mad, don't take it personal, but this is how I'm feeling. And it's kind of like, okay, you gave me a disclaimer, I'm going to soak that in. What can I do to make it better? It's about communication. Sometimes we get in our feelings too much, and then we end up having conflicts from that, because what happens is he says something you don't like, and then you throw his dirt in his face. And why for you now? Like,
that's not fighting fair. I'm working on it. That's at me then if you would talk about me. No, I'm just kidding.
He can't fighting you and tell you something that's been bothering him. The next time you have an argument, you throw that up in his face.
Right.
He won't tell you nothing again.
Right.
Never gonna again.
Right.
So I think there is a lot that plays into why relationships break up, why they don't last, struggles, stresses, so forth. But I believe that we all have the capability to have a happy marriage, to build a beautiful family. But we sometimes have to deny ourselves, in the sense that not because you think it means you have to say it. My mother-in-law would always say, you got to pick your battles.
Yeah.
Some aren't worth fighting over. Your husband has this little thing that he does that's a pet peeve for you. Think about it. Is it that serious? Is it worth losing your marriage over? Is it really worth it? I'm not saying you should let everything slide. Of course not.
Right. And it's how you say it. Because for me, sometimes it's so hard to hold my tongue. And, Charles would be like, really, babe? Like, did you have to say it? Or did you have to say it like that? And so now I'm really learning to take a step back and be like, babe, the dishes. Like, now you just say it in a different way that's more out of love and speaking life into the person, rather than, getting on the person as if, like, they don't mean anything to you.
Yeah.
It's just the way you talk.
Right, count to 10. Girl, by the time I get to 7, I want to slap somebody.
Yes.
Progress. Yeah, but I love love. I love helping women get to that point where they can look at themselves and say, you know what, Melissa, 5 months ago, I would have just told him a piece of my mind. But today I can honestly say I've grown, I've evolved, I've changed. And that's the only way our marriage is going to work. Sometimes you get caught up and we focus on, well, he did this and he should have did this and he didn't do this. We like to point fingers. But remember, when you point one finger, there are 4 more pointing back at you. It's not to put on you. It's just to say you're not perfect either. There are always things in you that can be improved. See here if we have any more questions.
Gina said, have you listened to the I My own past and my future.
Oh, no, I don't know Sia.
I always felt that was my story between my own past and my current man. No, I have to listen to that song.
Yeah, I have to look into that.
So you, Zena, I just want to make sure I'm understanding right. You feel like because he's older, you two are in two different phases. I think the biggest thing is, are you cultivating the phases that you're currently in, or do you feel like now you have to catch up? You know, I don't know. Let us know what you're thinking with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, the four fingers. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
yes, yes. Just to put it out there, um, I maybe a few years ago I would say that age wasn't a big thing, because I've dated older. I had this mindset where I thought that the older the man is, the more mature he is. That is a lie from the pit of hell. Okay, not because he's older means he's more mature. Um, my husband is 3 years my junior, 2.5, something like that, 2.5,
And he
3.
stepped up, married you in 45 days.
Let me tell you, that man had more game than some of these old men that
Yeah.
talked to me for years. You know, like, that's why I got to tip my hat to him, man. He just knew what he wanted. He went after it, and he's been doing a fantabulous job.
I love
Yeah.
that.
So, ladies, do you guys have any more questions you wanted to bring up? We would love to talk to you guys, hear your experiences, want to see what's going on in your relationships. If you have any, if you want any suggestions, we're here to help. That's
I
what
do think this was like such a great conversation. Thank you so much for keeping it real.
Yeah.
I'm hoping it, helped a lot of people. Definitely let us know what you guys thought of this. At first we did, because he's younger. Past guys play games. So now I'm with an older guys.
Okay.
Gotcha, Zena.
To be honest, though, age is just a number. Sorry. Age is a mindset, and to be honest, you can't change anyone. So if this person is not being mature, you kind of have to carry yourself.
She means he's older.
Oh wait, he's older.
She means he's older, so she feels like she has to catch up, right, Zena girl? Yeah, so he's older. She used to date younger, but now her man is older, so now she feels like she has to catch up to his maturity.
Because he's so mature.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like when I don't know, I always feel like, when you date someone and you're at a certain stage, of course, like, you want to experience growth, but I feel like, hopefully he's also giving you that grace of, you are in the stage where you are. And so hopefully you're not putting so much pressure on yourself to be where you feel like he is right away, because your journey is your journey. But the hope is that you guys are working together to be where you comfortably feel.
You're welcome, Miss.
Yes. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Jess. Thank you, everyone, especially engaging with us throughout this whole time.
Yes.
And Eve just said, what's the best thing you learned during couples counseling?
Ooh, that's a good one. So for me, I think, wow, the best thing I learned was patience. That's one of the patience. Being single for so long, I'm used to just doing what I wanted, whenever I wanted, however I wanted, without asking anybody, no permission. Once I got married, I had to learn that my husband may not move on my pace, or I may not move on his pace. And we have to learn to be patient with each other and meet each other where we're at, So it was hard for me. And to be honest, even within the first year of our marriage, it was still an adjustment, because I was so used to being independent that I would be impatient when I would have to wait on him to get things done. It's like, I'm not even ask you. I can do it myself. I don't need you. I can do it myself. I don't need you. I can do it myself. And it became an issue. So yeah, patience was a big thing for me. What about you?
Patience, for sure. I like that one. Two things come to mind. So, the first one is understanding how, because Charles and I are a lot alike, but we're also very different. And so, one example is that if I'm heated, like if I'm mad, like I can't talk to you right now. Like I need space
Yes.
because I'm afraid of what I'm going to say. So for me,
Yes,
I need to
girl.
walk away. And for him, like he likes to resolve something right away. And I can't, like literally my blood is boiling. Like I can't even come to the point where I want to say, hey, I'll talk to you in 5 minutes. Cause I don't know when I'm not gonna be mad anymore, you know? So, for me, I never understood why he wanted to talk right away. And then he couldn't really understand why I
you
needed
didn't
to
want
walk
to.
away. Yes. So I feel like in marriage counseling, we were both validated in our way of fighting fair. Where for me, I felt like I'm fighting fair because, hey, I'm walking away so that I don't say anything that would be detrimental to our relationship.
Yeah.
And he feels like I'm fighting fair because I want to resolve this now. I want us to be able to be keying 5 minutes from now, watching TV and going about our lives.
Yeah.
I don't want to have to just like be sitting, waiting and figuring out when is she going to talk to me?
Yeah.
So, through marriage counseling, we were able to really have that conversation and have it mediated and then come up with like, okay, if Delores feels like she can't have the conversation anymore, she needs to walk away, Delores is going to agree to a time, like, okay, give me an hour.
Yeah.
So I could force myself to say that. And for him, he's going to respect that. I'm going to need this hour instead of like following me, like trying to figure out when we can talk. So I think that was really important, that although we are two different people and we navigate situations differently, both of them should be valued. And it's not me trying to be fixed and have to be someone that needs to talk right away. And if him not being able to be validated and at least being told when. The other thing is that the pastor said that was really important is that premarital counseling doesn't end here. Like you always want to continue to cultivate it. And he was like, what I'm really giving you guys is a toolbox, because you're going to experience different things in life that maybe we didn't touch on, but at least you have the toolbox of how to have these conversations. And then also call me when you need me. Like, don't feel like this is the end. So for those of you who have missed it, I talked a little bit earlier about a real huge struggle that I was having within our first month, and we called up our premarital counselor and was like, hey, can you help us do this? Like, can you help us navigate this situation? So for me, that was the biggest lesson, is like, allow that to be a part of your a part of your marriage, throughout your marriage, because for a lot of us, this is new. We don't know how to navigate a marriage. And even if you have parents who had a healthy relationship, their time is very different from our time now. Like, we have social media, we have all this violence. I mean, not that they didn't see violence, but we're seeing it in our face every single day, via the media, via social media. So, it's important to be able to go back to counseling and have those conversations of like, and not be embarrassed by it. And I mean, I am thankful for Charles to be with someone who's okay with like, hey, maybe we should talk to Pastor Devin about how to navigate this, because I'm not sure. So I think that humility is very, very important. And it's not like everybody's going to know, it's just between, I'm sharing it with you guys so you guys know, but it's not anything to be ashamed of, to seek help.
Not at all. Like,
we are not our parents.
Beautiful. My husband and I, before we got married, we made a pact that every year, at least once a year, we'd go and see our therapist. Not because anything is wrong or we're trying to prevent anything. It's just for like a checkup, just like how you'd go for your annual checkup or your every 6-month checkup. We want to do that to make sure that we are where we need to be. Because everything might look good on the cover, but there might be that one thing that's under your skin that's bugging you, or that's bugging him, and you guys didn't know. It's worth it. There's nothing to be ashamed of. Like you said, it's to make sure your marriage stays healthy. I love that. I think it's beautiful.
Yes. Kind of reminds me of just said earlier with like, treat it like how we treat our annuals. Exactly. I'm gonna start that. So instead of us doing our own annual assessment, like, Pastor Devin, we're ready for
it's a good idea. It's a good idea. And it doesn't mean that anything is wrong. It just shows how dedicated you are to your marriage and you want your marriage to work. I don't want it to get to the place where it's so bad and I start looking for help when everything is already going down the drain. That's unfair to the marriage that you're trying to build. If you see something, say something. That's how I see it. you
And you don't
know?
want it to get so bad where you're not friends anymore. Like for me,
Oh,
like
yes.
I want to be his like bestie first and foremost. Like,
Yes.
and so when you don't like each other anymore, I feel like that's when
Mhm.
it starts getting sad. And so I think that's when
Yeah,
the tune-ups are important. So you can still be
absolutely.
friends. Yeah.
I did some research for a project I'm working on, and I found that in 2019, there was about an 8% rate with women filing for divorces. 8%, which I thought was low, okay. But after last year, the year we had, it's almost 60% that, you
Yeah.
know, it went all the way up. And then on top
Quarantine,
of
people
that,
had to face their issues, things that they were
right,
ignoring because they were able to escape, go to work, go
right.
to friends. Yeah.
Exactly. And the funny thing is, in some states, it's mandatory for marriage therapy before they can get granted a divorce. And you find that people go to therapy and they realize, oh my gosh, I don't want to get divorced. It just turns out we were just misunderstanding each other, you
Mhm.
know? So my thing is just don't wait until something goes awry. As soon as you see something off, go check it out. Go for
Mhm.
a tune up. You know, you don't just
Mhm.
drive your car every day and don't put gas in it. Like, come on. You know, we got
Mhm.
to really be intentional in our marriages if we want these to work. Like,
Yeah.
some marriages in this country on average are lasting only 8 years. That is
Minus us.
unacceptable. 8 years? No. No,
Mm-mm.
no one wants to get married just to get divorced after 8 years. I've
No.
seen couples get divorced at 80 and 75, and I'm like, why? Y'all
Yeah.
was
Or they
together for
wait for their
30, 40
children to become
years.
adults. Yeah.
I believe that is one of the things I don't agree with.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe in staying in a marriage for the kids. I did not
Mm-hmm.
marry my kids. I married my
Right.
husband.
And a lot
I
of
did,
times your kids feel, I know for me growing up, like you feel the energy and it's almost better if you're not
yeah,
together, you know? Yeah.
absolutely. The thing is, the kids are going to grow up. They're not going to stay with you forever. The kids are going to
Mm-hmm.
move out, and then y'all are going to be forced to stay and face each other every day. And then what?
Right.
And then what? That makes no sense. If you want to leave, leave. Don't sit
Mm-hmm.
in a relationship or a marriage just for your children.
Right.
Don't do that, because that's only gonna mess the kids up in the end. My
Right.
parents did that. They stayed for the kids, and
Mm-hmm.
once I left, once I left, it was kind of like, well, I have two younger siblings, and they're kind of like, why don't y'all just get divorced? Like, we're
Wow.
grown, we can handle it. Like, just
Yeah.
it's ridiculous.
It's
But again,
sad.
I don't like that D word. But if it has to come to that, don't stick around because of the kids. Like, the
Right.
kids are they'll get over it.
Right.
Really, they'll get over it.
Right.
But I just want women to understand that marriage is, it's not, what's the right term? It's not all fun and games. It's
Mm-hmm.
real hard work. And that work
Mm-hmm.
begins after you say, I do. It doesn't
Mm-hmm.
begin when you get that engagement ring. You
Mm-hmm.
might feel stressed because you're planning a wedding, especially with COVID. You're probably trying to figure out, how we're going to do this. That's stressful. I get it. But the actual marriage, that is real work. And if you don't put in the fundamentals, you're not going to hit the ground running. You're going to hit the
Mm-hmm.
ground crawling.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're already married and you're still kind of struggling, it's okay. It's okay. There's so many resources out there that can help you get your marriage on track. And I suggest, first of all, seeing a coach. If the purpose of the coach is to help you attain the goals that you set for your marriage. If you're
Mm-hmm.
having issues that involve emotions, whereas you guys are having issues handling, I don't know, past situations and things that cause great deal in harm, trauma, so forth, then I would recommend a therapist.
Right.
So, guys, treat your marriage like you treat your checkups. Who said that again?
Jessica. Yeah.
Jessica, shout
And then
out
I
to
think
you,
Astrid
girl.
said, don't wait till things get bad. Do it
Yeah,
when things
don't.
are good.
Not at all. Not at all. Not at all.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't see any more questions. I don't know, Delores, if you wanted to say anything to start the wrap up, if you wanted to talk
Yeah,
about
well,
anything
I
you
just
had
want to
going
say
on.
thank you for, to everyone who hung out with us. and just engage. I think this was so much fun. Thank you, Melissa, for inviting me. When I saw the title, I was like, what is my purpose as a wife? So I really, really love that we had this discussion. And just so thank you so much. So if you're watching and you're in a relationship and you're looking for community, for support, definitely join our Facebook group, Flourishing in Love. If you're not in a relationship yet, but you just want some marriage inspiration, definitely follow Melissa and myself. We post a lot about our relationship or marriage advice. And yeah, oh, check out my YouTube videos. I also do that there as well. But I love to connect. I love to collaborate. So, please do not hesitate to contact me. Definitely there to be a support.
Awesome. And for me, I actually am in the process of launching my new course that's coming out the end of this month. It's called Wifeology 101 Ready, Set, Wife. As I said earlier, I don't teach people how to be great wives. I teach women how to be, a better version of themselves, which in turn makes them great wives. Right. So right now, the wait list is open for that course. You can head on over to the link in my bio and put your name on that wait list. I want to be able to help millennial women. I don't want to just say millennial. I feel like I'm leaving people out. So I just want to help women be able to see their true purpose, who they are, and what makes them them. A lot of the times we don't want to admit our own flaws, but a lot of us struggle with communication. A lot of us are always on the defensive, and we go into our marriages with some of these same habits and expect our husbands to just accept it, and that's not cool. And this is not to say men don't have their issues too. I'm not talking about men right now. I'm talking about us, So if you're interested in, getting to know you on a deeper level, which in turn will make you a better person for your spouse or your spouse to be, go on over to my page, add your name to that list. You'll be getting an email from me within the next week or two, giving you more information about what your next moves will be. So that's what I'm working on right now. And of course, follow the both of us. I feel like I want to do this more often with you, Delores.
This was really good.
Yeah.
This was
You're my cup of tea.
Thank you.
I really like you.
Yeah. Oh, thank you, girl. No, this was a really great conversation. Definitely happy to hop on. It seems like people enjoyed it too. So sure. Thank you, you guys.
All right, guys. So if there are any more questions, feel free to reach out to us at any time.
Yes.
I love this. It's beautiful. Please send Charles my love. I just like your husband. He's just so cool.
Oh,
what state do you guys live in?
I'm sorry? We live in Jersey, so you're not in New York anymore?
No, I left New York. I couldn't take it. I'm in Virginia now.
Oh, I would love to be there. Bigger houses, more land.
Yes.
I'm like, why are we here? But yes, it was so nice learning more about Javon. Yes, that was really dope. So
yes.
It'd be nice if we do something together. But hopefully you guys can make our next date night and join me.
Oh yes, please. We'll connect off air and we'll get that all sorted out.
Yes. Well, good night, everyone. Stay safe.
Y'all take care.
And love on yourself.
Yes.
That's important too. Bye.